Hi, I'm Sarah with Core Motion Fitness, and today I have a stretching sequence for you. It's from the book Pain Free. You're gonna love it. All you need to do is have a chair or couch and a block, like a yoga block. You can also use a pillow or folded up towel. And then also, I have a band here. You could use a band, you could use a strap, you could also use a necktie, anything that you could hold on to loop around your foot and assist with the stretch. So we're gonna go ahead and get going right away. This is about 30 minutes. There'll be times where we're holding poses for long periods of time, and I'll let you just sit in peace and enjoy that time. But right now, we're gonna sit in a wall sit right here. So knees are over ankles, hips are up against the wall, and we're gonna hold this wall sit for 1 minute. Now, if this becomes a little bit too intense, you can come up out of the wall sit and then just come right back down again. So even 30-second intervals. But what I do want you to think about is that your back is pressing against the wall here. So we're just gonna hold, and if you can go palms up, either on your knees or up against the wall, it's gonna be a better position for your shoulders and back. So we're just holding here. This is gonna help just kind of realign the hips, knees, and ankles and get that kinetic chain back in order. You'll see a lot of exercises that do that tonight. So just relax into it. Maybe start to think about your body. Is one hip higher than the other? Does one knee hurt more than the other? Just kind of make those connections right here. And we are almost there. We've got 15 seconds, and we are gonna do this 2 times. So you might feel a little bit of intensity, and that's all right. Let's go ahead and come out of that right here, and you can just shake out those legs a little bit. We're gonna go right back to it again. So place your feet out in front of you, knees over the ankles, and just slide right on down. Get that timer going. Now, if you can think big belly breaths while you're here in this wall sit. So as you exhale, push your low back up against the wall. Think about just snapping your belly button to the wall, and continue to hold. Now, if your legs are a little toasty from already doing it, right, you can come up and you can just go right back down again. Mine are a little toasty right now too, so it's okay. But again, think about the hips. We are almost there. You've got just 15 seconds to go. Can you go just a tiny bit lower and continue to hold? 3, 2, and rise. Good. All right. So now we're going to lay on our back and take our feet up against the wall. You're going to want your hips all the way up against the wall here, but as close as possible, and hands by your side. Now, ideally, you're gonna flex the feet just slightly. That means pulling your toes towards your body. If that gets to be too intense in your shins or your quads, your hips, then by all means, let them relax. And again, you might feel one hip higher than the other as you're lying here on the floor, and you wanna just think gravity allowing or helping your body to melt into the floor. Additionally, palms are up. I don't know if you can see my palms. You also could have your hands out to the side, kind of in a goalpost type position with the palms up. The reason for that is we really want to prevent that forward rounded position that we find our upper backs in so often. Now with every exhale, just fill your abdominals. Pull your back to the mat, not with an engagement, but just that exhale only. Good, we're gonna stay here for about 1 more minute. So one thing you'll notice with these stretches, for these active recovery classes is that they are long, and that is the intent is for them to be long to allow gravity to do its work. Think about the realignment of our bodies. All right, we're gonna roll off to the side, let our knees come down, and we're gonna roll ourselves up. And you can use the wall, or you can use a chair or a counter for this next one. So from the wall, it looks like this. Hands up against the wall, hips tilted up, and head between the biceps. Again, this can be done on the chair as well. We're letting our hips lift. And this is just getting our hips out of flexion, which is when we're in our chairs all day. We have our knees right at a 90-degree angle, right? We've got that flexion going on in the hips. So we're gonna release that. If you can feel your hips, your hip flexors right here, right? They're not being held in a flex position. So if you need to sway the hips even, that's fine, but try to keep the ears between the biceps as much as possible. And bring it on up. All right, and this one will be sitting on the floor up against the wall. And I don't even see my feet, but my feet are flexed. They're getting pulled toward my body here. And this is a long one, right? This is about 3.5 minutes long, 4 minutes long. So again, this is a great time to, turn some music on, listen to a podcast. I do this one often in the morning, even just having my coffee and getting a drink. So just enjoy. Think about pulling your chin in, pushing your head to the wall. Some people feel this more in their backs than in their hamstrings, and less of a release in the hips. So it really depends, if your hips are more rotated or if you feel like you do have that forward movement in your upper back. And this would be really helping you with posture. So again, key is that shoulders are pulled to the wall. You feel a little bit of engagement between the shoulder blades. If this is too much to have your hands out to the side, you can also have them right here on your lap, okay? Having your palms up does prevent, right? As soon as you take your hands and go palms down, your shoulders pull away from the wall. So just kind of keep that in mind while you're here. I like to just move my head side to side. I'm just still keeping the head pulled back and up against the wall, but just a little bit of movement feels good on the neck and spine. About 30 seconds left here, and ultimately you could sit in this for up to 5 to 8 minutes if it's feeling good and you've got time. Maybe you're even watching TV or having a conversation with somebody in your house. It's a great place to just hang out and realign the hips. All right, we're gonna move on. So a lot of these exercises so far have been for hips and knees. Okay, also the ankles, because we have this whole line going on in our body from our feet all the way to our hips. And when one joint is out of alignment, or not functioning in the proper form, right? It puts stress and tug on those other joints. So just as a reminder, that's kind of what we're focusing on right now. Okay, so next up, we're gonna just lay on the floor here. One leg is stretched out, okay? The other leg is hugged in towards your body, and you're gonna count 30 circles with your foot in one direction, and then we'll go 30 in the opposite direction as well. And think about those toes moving a little bit. You will start to feel some heat in the shin, and that's completely normal. You may feel even some cramping in the bottom of the foot. Some people don't feel this at all. If your ankles and feet are really healthy and you don't have a lot of pain, then you might not feel this. But otherwise, there might be some cracking and popping. My ankle likes to pop on this one. And if you feel too much stress, just shake it out, right? And then just get right back into it again. All right, once you've done 30 in each direction, now we're gonna point and flex. So be very intentional to move your toes as well. It's not just the ankle moving, it's the whole foot. And we're gonna try to do 20 point and flexes. And again, if you need to, stretch it out and then get back into it again, not a problem. But while you're here, your shoulders are relaxed to the floor. And we're gonna release that. All right, if you have your strap, we're gonna work on the same leg. So now what I'd like you to do is take your strap, place it underneath the arch of the foot, and your bottom leg is bent, okay? This one is for the hamstring, so back of the upper leg is what we're focusing on here, okay? So, right, if our hamstrings, quads, all the muscles around the knee are not working properly, okay, or not, or are pulling the joint out of alignment, right, then we're gonna have joint pain. So we're trying to just lengthen and strengthen those muscles around the joints that might be causing you some problems. So while you're here, again, think about your hips being level. This is just a 30-second stretch. Elbows are anchored to the ground so our hands are not up in the air. All right, release that for a moment and then slide your band or your strap around more of the ball of the foot. And a band can be a little slippery, so be careful with that. I like to actually kind of cinch that up around my foot and then pull your toes back towards your body. And now you're gonna align your knees next to each other. So toes are being pulled back. For me, this is a really incredible stretch for my anterior tibialis, that shin muscle. It is a little painful. I have a slight ankle injury, so breathe through it. If you feel tension going up into your neck, always release and then just go back at it again. And release. Okay, I'm gonna just go ahead and stretch that leg out, let it relax for a moment, and then start thinking about the other leg. So 30 revolutions in each direction. And once you've got 30 and you feel some nice heat in the shin, right, go ahead and switch to the opposite direction. And maybe you need to start with 20 on this one. This is also really wonderful for Achilles, any kind of Achilles pain or plantar fasciitis, any kind of sprain, ankle sprain, rehabilitating that, maybe some shin splints, any kind of injuries for the ankles and feet and lower legs. Okay, and then move into your point and flexes next, where you've got 20 of those, moving the toes as you're doing this. Whew, starting to burn a little bit. And when you're done, then go ahead and get that strap on again. And these are, these kind of exercises really can be done every day, right? They can even be done morning and night. If you need to, just do half of them in the morning and half at night, that's fine. Remember, we're gonna do the hamstring right now. So the idea behind these stretches is that really, if you feel even just the slightest bit of relief in your hips, knees, and ankles, okay, you would relief for 10 minutes, that you should continue doing it every day until you start to feel relief for longer periods of time. And then once the pain abates and it's no longer bothering you, then it can just be kind of a check-in or a once in a while type thing that you do these exercises. All right, let's go ahead and change the band right to the ball of our foot and flex the foot. And again, you're gonna cinch that up so you don't snap yourself with your band, and bring your knees down towards one another. Push your foot forward and your toes back, and you've got 30 seconds right here. And if your toes starts to turn in, right, you're gonna pull it open a little bit. Mine tends to do that sometimes. And you should feel this in your calf. I feel it the most in my shins, but ideally it's for the calf and Achilles. And release. Okay, let's go ahead and take that band off of our leg, and we are going to move into our chair work next. So you can also do this on the couch, or I use my ottoman a lot at home, but you want something that you can put your legs at 90 degrees. So if your chair or your couch is too high, then make those adjustments. You can put a pillow under your legs if maybe your chair is too short. But we're just gonna lay here with our hips completely grounded, our knees at 90 degrees. Our palms are turned up once again. They can be on our side, they can even be on our hips a little bit here. But we do wanna think about the positioning of our hips. So a lot of times it's common to hold tension on your low back. I don't know if you can see my low back at all here, but when we hold tension, sometimes we'll have an arch in our low back. So everybody go ahead and do that. And then just let your hips kind of fall naturally to the floor. And as you exhale, let gravity just keep them there without squeezing or engaging too much. And we're just gonna hang out here for about 3 minutes. So it's a nice long set again, to feel this leveling in the hips, okay? This is something you can do all the time. It's kind of that realignment, that reconnection between the ankles, knees, and hips. And again, sometimes we'll feel one hip lift off the ground, so just put an extra special amount of breath right into that side that feels like it wants to lift. Another good thing to think about right now is that if you can feel your hip flexors, right where your legs come to your hips, you can feel that they're not tight at all, right? They're not in a flexed position where they're being held in this tight position, right? They're completely relaxed. So even though we are at a 90-degree angle, we're not allowing our hip flexors to stay in this flexed position for a long period of time. Another thing to think about, I just doing these check-ins with you because I find my body doing this as well. If your knees kind of start to flare open a little bit, just bring them back in, and sometimes a slight flexion of the feet, right? Like pulling the toes back towards you can help keep those knees in line with the hips, and even add a little bit of pressure to allow the hips to move toward the floor. So you don't have to hold this flexed position completely, but just be mindful that the knees are not going in or out, but staying right in line with the hips. We're gonna stay here for about 30 seconds longer. All right, go ahead and roll off of the chair. I'm sorry, yeah, roll your knees off of the chair. And then you're gonna come up to seated position. You're gonna take your block, okay? We're gonna begin with the block between our inner thighs, just right behind the knees. Now, your backside is on the edge of the chair. We're completely relaxed through our abdominals and our back. So we're not trying to squeeze or engage the abdominals in the back here. Our focus right now, so remember how I said now we're in flexion again, so you can feel tension in those hip flexors, but we want them to work, okay, we want them to work in their proper way, which is, okay, to lift our legs. So not to stay in this position all day, right, that's not a healthy position, but to be able to lift, right, and do the work. So when you're walking, every time you walk, you use your hip flexor to pick up your leg, okay? So this is what we're activating, is inner thighs and hip flexors. So I want you to think about 2 eggs, okay, raw eggs, underneath the balls of your feet, okay? You're going to lift your heels ever so slightly without putting a lot of pressure on the toes. So try to keep those eggs intact. I also want you to squeeze the block, or if you have a pillow or something like that, that's fine, you can put that between your legs. But you're activating the inner thighs, trying to release the back and core, and toes as light as possible on the floor. And ultimately, you're trying to get 10 to 15 reps here, 3 times through, but we might just go through a couple times just to get a feel for it. And then, again, this is really great exercise for the hips and knees. So keep this in mind as well. And I will put some notes in the, I will put some notes below so that you can identify which exercise is for which body part. But as you can see, most of these are overlapping into all 3 of these lower extremity areas. Keep squeezing nice and tight. Let's do just 2 more. And sometimes just 1 set is enough. As you do this more often, then you can add those other sets in, okay? So release for a moment. You might want to move your legs around. You might feel that in your hip flexors, right? They are actually doing the job they're intended to do. We are going to put this back in between our legs again. Now this time, you're going to focus on squeezing the inner thighs and activating through, so abduction and adduction, all right, is what we're focusing on next. So feet are hip distance. Again, we're relaxed through the back and core, and you're just squeezing that block. We're going to squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. So when we release, we're still keeping some tension through the hips here, and we're trying to activate these abductors and adductors for their stability purposes instead of for gait purposes. Gait is meaning this forward motion. So we want the hips to stabilize, these muscles to stabilize the hips. Good. And ultimately stabilize the knees. And let's do 3, 2, 1, and then release. Just kind of move around a little bit. And do 1 more set. Okay, try to get between 10 to 15 squeezes without using your abdominals. It's really common because whenever we exercise, we think, use your core, use your core. But I want you to just use your inner thighs, relax, even just kind of let it all hang out right here and just squeeze. We'll do 3, 2, 1, and release. All right, so come out of the chair. Next up, these are gluteal squeezes. So your gluteals are your butt muscles, all right? Oftentimes they're underworked, underactivated, right? They cause hip and knee pain all the time. And right, if they're not activated and working in their proper way, then our whole lower extremities are, again, just not functioning and not in alignment. So we are gonna start with our feet pointing forward, okay? And I'm gonna turn to the side, and it's okay to touch your butt and feel the squeeze happening here. So you're gonna squeeze, okay? It's just a little lifting of the butt, if you can see that. Okay, I had somebody say it's like reverse Kegels, okay? It's kind of like that. So you're lifting the glutes. Now, here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see the lifting of the glutes and the squeezing of the quads. Do you see how I'm over activating my quads right here? But quads should be, okay, really relax. It's hard and it might not be the tightest squeeze you can possibly get, and you might have to put your hands on your butt to start telling your muscles to work, okay? That's fine. So you're squeezing, 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 knees are soft, rest of the legs are relaxed, abdominals are even relaxed here. Think about pulling your glutes around your tailbone. Okay, keep it coming. I believe we have, let me just double check this. I think we have 15 reps, okay? And we want to, again, just keep the work in the glutes. 3, 2, 1, and then you're gonna turn your toes out. And same idea, okay? So still lifting, lifting, lifting. I know, it's kind of a funny movement. And remind yourself, feel the quads. Are you using them or are you using your glutes? If you're using your glutes, you should feel some heat back here. You should feel the muscles going in toward the midline of your body. Okay. And again, you can do 3 sets in each position here of 15 reps. We're just gonna go 1 time through. And if we have time, we might do 2 times through. Last one is feet wide, so hip distance. And again, for me, this is the easiest one. Everybody has their own easy, right? But you're here, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Okay, from that front view. Again, and it's not this, okay, we're not thrusting the hips, it's just a lift and a lift. Okay, my quads really want to engage. I can feel them trying to pull in, but do your best. And let's do 1 more time, and good. Okay, we do have time for more, so let's go ahead and start it from the top again. So feet narrow, and we're lifting the glutes, lift. 15. And once you've got 15, then heels in, toes out. Right? I know it doesn't look like anything's happening, but you should feel, again, that movement in, right, toward your midline. And for the last one, we'll take our feet in that wider position, hip distance, or just even a tiny bit wider, and squeeze. Now, again, my quads really want to start to activate in this one. So I'm gonna think, squeeze together, squeeze together. And it's okay if you have to go slow to really find that activation. Sometimes it helps to do it in a mirror so you can see if your butt's moving or if it's your quads. And done. All right. So move those hips side to side. So what you should feel at this point, after having done work for your hips, knees, and ankles, is that you might feel a little bit more leveling going on. So for me, my hip is just always slightly rotated. When it's rotated, does it cause my shoulder to have some pain? I start to feel pain down into my foot. So if you may not have pain in the exact joint that is out of alignment, but you may have pain or discomfort on the joint on either side of that. So pay attention to your body, okay? If it's always neck pain, you might need to start thinking, man, maybe it's my hips, that's the problem, right? If it's always ankle pain, then maybe it's your knee that's the issue. So these exercises that we did tonight will work through all of those hips, knees, and ankle areas, even into the feet. So I recommend doing all of them, even if you just pick a couple and do, a couple every day. But ideally, if you have a lot of pain, then do all of the prescribed exercises for that area of the body every day until the pain subsides and you start to feel some relief. So I hope you enjoyed that tonight, and I will see you soon.